Hello, this is Vance, and this is Wednesday, October the 14th, 2015. These are the CL trades for today using the slow hand method for price action. Well, today was more like a range day on the CL. Wasn't a lot of trades. In fact, it took me a while to figure out the fact that today is not Monday was a holiday. Was Columbus Day, and as a result, the DOE report isn't going to be out till tomorrow. And unfortunately, I wasn't really thinking about that. I was thinking that today is Wednesday in the DOE report, not keeping track of a holiday. And right in here, when prices started to stack up, I figured out it was because of the likely because of the anticipation of the report. But then I realized there is no report today. It's not till tomorrow. So that maybe that's why it was stacking up, is that other people thought the same way as I did, that there was going to be a report out today. And that's why there wasn't a lot of action in the market. I can't see that that'd be the case, but I was thinking about that. Anyway, overnight we had it was a pretty tight range overnight, from anywhere from the high, and it never really got to the high, was 46.96, just under $47, and that's the overnight high. And up until, so we didn't have a lot of movement. The low was roughly about 46.35, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it wasn't a really large range. It was about 60 ticks or so, 61 ticks from the top to the bottom. And then it started speeding up. Velocity trading started really kind of came alive around 8 o'clock or so. It was starting to get some more action into the market, and I guess traders were waking up and getting to the trading stations or whatever. So the first real trade, really, as far as entry as I saw, was really just after 8:30, say 8:30. We had this double, triple top up here, almost quadruple top. And when price failed right here, we had this movement up, and then there was a failure. So it's really like a second entry short. And what I mean by second entry short, it doesn't really look like it. But if you take these bars here and you add them up apart from this, this movement, and you kind of squish these together, you'll see that price moved up, came back down here, moved up, and then failed. And it failed after made a new high, and then failed from here. So it's really kind of a trap. Took a while to work out. Again, another opportunity to get in here, another second entry short from off of this one. First entry, pull back, second entry. The reason that's in green is because it didn't pull back, didn't make a new high. You'd like to see it make a new high. But I think there's enough resistance along these tops to be worthwhile. And you've got room to get out, not only to here. So you give your 15 ticks. And if you take your 15 tick stop box right here, prices get down to these double bottoms right to here. And then, as you can see, not only did it, if you had your right along these bottoms here, there was room to get out. But as you can see, it went even further down to here, and so there was enough room to get out from up these ones where these closes were. But as you can see, price hesitated. Let me just show this here. Price hesitated here. You can see this pullback, and then gathered up momentum and headed back down. The sellers really kind of took it even lower than that. Now, when price, so you have this channel in here. It was a pretty rapid decline. This is 9 o'clock, and this is 9:12. So it takes roughly 10 minutes for prices to move almost 100 ticks. So it moves almost 100 ticks, comes down to this area, and then from here, from this 100 tick move, it breaks a channel, pulls back down to here, and really a second entry long near the bottom. Now, it's not it's a new low for the day, so you can kind of say that's kind of suspect. But the reason I like this trade, even though it's near the low of the day, is because of the fact that, or at the low of the day, is because this move here was really a pent-up move. Break and come. I think that's more the issue more than anything else, is because price moved down here so rapidly. It's worthwhile. I thought it was worthwhile to take because of that, and because prices really are stacking up down here. It looks like more of like a reversal type pattern. Now, you could make the other argument that this was a pretty almost a trap here. Where would you get in? I mean, when you saw this strong bar coming out of here, I mean, you see the first entry, pull back, second entry. That's why I thought this was a decent trade. A little bit of room to get out, as you can see, came up. Now it really had hit some resistance up here, then pulled back again, and then again another second entry long. first price comes on the first time, fails, comes on the second time, and then bounces out here. So this is a second entry long right here at this bottom. And again, if you're looking at where your stops are, in this case, your stop is below this, 15 ticks, and then up here, your stop is down here, and it's below this one. Now, if you're really aggressive, you can put a buy limit order down to here, get those extra few ticks, get a little slightly better entry if you had done that, because I think this was just an overshoot more than anything else, especially this leg. Now, you're looking for another leg down? I don't think so, because the prices are stacking up down here. And it turns out that it's really confirmed later on in the day, because any time price got down to this area, you can see that it was kind of brought back up, especially later on in the day. And that's a real key as well, because not only did price rush down here, but it didn't take very long for it to move back up. So this is 930, and this is 943. So we're looking at like 930, pardon me, 9, in this case 930, 943. So 15 minutes, it zips right back up to where almost the overnight high, or not the overnight high, where this all started from this entry down here. This will be important. It's not only where the price opened, but this is going to be important later on. And the reason it's going to be important, I think, is because this really is a target when price traded back down to this area here. Now, this took a long time, for relatively speaking, because at this time, this is 930, 945, let's say. By the time price gets down here, it's almost 11:15. So we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of an hour and a half, 90 minutes for price to come down this far. When you think that these two moves here, this down and up move, took less than an hour to move that magnitude, when you add up all the ticks and how much movement there was, and that from down to here, down to this level, took almost 90 minutes, you can see that there was a lot more interest near the open than there was mid-morning. Now, when price got down to this area, right around somewhere in the neighborhood of just after 11 o'clock, you can see that it broke this channel, and now there is more interest in taking price to the other side. And that's what these trades were. After 11 o'clock, 11:15, let's say, I was looking at more longs along this line and created this channel. Now, some of these took a little while to work out. This was a pretty decent trade. I mean, this was, I think, pretty easy to see. I marked it in green. I think you could have marked this one in blue as well. This is more of a green trade because of the fact it's a strong bar, but where you had some capitulation here, so it's a little bit. But this particular trade, it's a second entry long, first entry, second entry. When you look at a bar like this one, let me just kind of make this a little bit bigger. When you look at a bar like this one, it's really a doji with a long tail, but think of it from the standpoint of when this particular bar opened. What would happen here is that this bar opened right at this price. Let me just see if I can give you a description of this. This bar opened on 46.11. It trades down to 46.03, and then it trades back up right to here and closes at 46.10. Okay, so it's one tick. So picture it from this standpoint. If you look at the move starting from here, price here's where price opened right here, moves up, closes down here. Okay, on the bar previous to that. So bear with me for a moment. Price opens here, moves up to 46.22, pulls back down to 46.10, moves up a tick, closes. Opens on the next bar, moves down, or moves up, and then moves back, and then closes at 46.10. So if you look at it from the standpoint of how that movement took place, you see that price moved up, moved down, and moved back up, and closed almost on its high. So when you look at going long, so if you take this previous bar, price moves down, pulls up, pulls down, and then pulls up. So you can see that this is like a second entry long, and it's a pretty strong one because of the magnitude. That's why I like this trade. And if you look at where your stop would be, your stop is down at the bottom of this area right here. So it's right, if you get in here, it's below these areas right near this where we had former support. So that's why I like this trade. I could have marked this one in blue. The only reason it was in green is because it doesn't afford you a lot of room to get out near the top. There's not a lot of magnitude or a lot of space, and I'll show you what I mean by that. If you get your entry at 46.12, let's say, from 46.12, your 15 ticks puts you right here, and it puts you really close by to these double tops here. And as you can see, it took a while for it to work out. We had a pull, almost like a breakout pullback that before it went further. But look at this area right here. You can see that this capitulation at this point in time, maybe near your 15 ticks. When it got to the 15 ticks, it really hesitated somewhat, but before it broke through. And then once it got to this higher level, which I think was to coordinate or being associated with this area of capitulation onto the left side of your chart, you can see prices turn back down. And but there's really no place to get in. Even though this is a second entry short right here, I didn't really like it because I'm not thinking that, first of all, it is a ways away from the EMA. If you're aggressive, you could perhaps have taken it, but it's only really a first entry. It looks like kind of like a second entry if you take the same idea that price moved up, pulled back, and then moved up again. But with the magnitude of the second leg here, it's really more like just a first entry. We wait for the break of this channel, and the break does come down here. You have breaks, it pulls back, and then, so this is a second entry long right here. The challenge with this trade, though, is that once you get into it, and I marked it in blue because it was a strong bar, the challenge is that you can see these next bars, you have this capitulation. And frankly, if you held onto it, you would have been fine. However, you might have gotten shaken out on this trade, because by the time it actually got purchased, or by the time it kind of headed in the direction that it had, with this, based on this, look at this chart here, and this, it's basically, you got a couple of reasons why it'd be okay, is because you have this, it looks like support across these bottoms here, close enough to this support that was in previous, this little area here. You have this trend channel, this channel working up here. You've got these touches along this bottom, this angled support line right here. So that was the positive. I was thinking that it was going to really retest this other area and give you some more opportunity to get in. So enough for your 15 ticks to get to these double tops, at least from here. There's lots of room. Now, what happens? Once you get in on this trade, you could have gotten shaken out, because you look at this really bearish bar that's in here. As long as you left your stop down here, you were fine. It pulls back again, and you might have gotten shaken out on this, particularly depending on the length of time it takes to work out. And in this case, this is 11:12. By the time it actually gets on its way, it's 11:23. So this is 11 minutes by the time this actually works out. And if you think of these 4 bars being created in 11 minutes, you think of, it didn't take that long. This over here was a significant movement earlier in the day. This is 9:38, and right up to here is 9:41. So this area here took 3 minutes, and these 4 bars developed in 11 minutes. Now, that, because it's so slow and was so slow to develop, it really took a lot of patience to sit through it with that conviction. And when it goes that long, and I mean 11 minutes, I'm not saying that 11 minutes is a long time. When it goes 11 minutes, particularly to create these many bars in an instrument like the CL, that's getting a little bit long. So when you see, I mentioned this in the past, if it doesn't move in your direction within the first couple of bars, you should be looking at closing it out. So you might have closed it out. If you had the wherewithal and you were convinced that we're going higher, it turned out that it did go higher. So it worked out all right. Another opportunity to get in here. This is a little bit better trade, because this is like, as I was mentioning, here's your first pullback, fails, second pullback. So it's really 2 legs back, even though it's on the same bar. If you look at a lower time frame, you'll see that this is really a second entry. It's a strong bar to complete. You've got room to get out to these double tops. And as you can see, price moved up here again. No runners live, came back and took you out break even +1 right here. But then later on, now I was finished for the day, but then we had this other movement, and you can see that later in the day, this is at 1:30. This is when prices really moved up. Moved up, broke through, and then created this more of a channel. The original channel was really kind of like this, okay. And then when price moved up here, so you're looking at this channel at first, and you can see when price moved to the other side here, this hesitation really at the opening price, and they moved up and almost made the daily high. Not quite, 46.94, and then got turned back. So there was obviously sellers resident near the daily high. So the idea with trading, when you're trading in the short term like this, is to try to on the fly to figure out investor psychology, or where investors are heading. What are they thinking? You anticipate what the crowd is doing, and then you do the opposite. That's what they're going to do. So this is, or in some cases, what the mentality is, and that's why I find it's easier to think of it in those terms. Where price, and one real quick example is that, and I've used this example in the past. when price sold off here, you have to realize that as price is selling off, traders that are using safety stops they're going short, and their safety stops are lined up all along here. When price gets a purchase, when buyers take control, you can see that these safety stops are blown through. And anytime you get an area of resistance or support, you'll see that there'll be hesitation at those areas. And if in this case, if obviously buyers were overwhelmed by sellers, so price turned down in the other direction. But you can see that those sellers, it was taken down fairly slowly. It wasn't, as I mentioned, this took 10 minutes to move up, and it took, or 3 minutes to move up, pardon me, and it took an hour and a half for it to move down. So you have to say that the buying interest or the buying context is still in the market. So when buyers got control of it, you can see it was still difficult for it to move up. And this area right here, this entire area, is just really a repeat of this area right down. So it repeated twice. It was reluctant to go down, but it was just as reluctant to come back up. However, it did. And where was the target? At the daily high, or the opening price, or near the daily high. And that's what I mean by a range day. Price traded between this range for the entire session, from this high here, again from the high of the overnight high of 46.94 down to the, let's call it right here, the daily low of 46.02. So roughly 100 ticks. Anyway, that's it. There is nothing else. This is going on 16 minutes. Hopefully I can render this thing and it'll come out well and quickly. If you have any questions, please let me know. This is Vance. Bye for now.